Hi everybody, I'm JG Pasterjack from Grassroots Motorsports Magazine. The video you're about to watch was featured on one of our recent live Watch Us Wednesday shows on Facebook. Join us every week for more great content just like this and more great stuff right from the pages of your favorite car magazine, Grassroots Motorsports. Enjoy the video, everybody. And we are recording. Hey, and there we go. Okay, so we're going to wait just a second here to get some people online. We actually have a pretty good crowd building already. So I will actually go ahead and say hi to everybody. Hi everybody, welcome to a special Tuesday edition of GRM's Watch Us Wednesday. This week on Tuesday, we really appreciate you guys being here for our altered schedule show. Big show today. Got a big announcement to make here in just a few seconds, and a very cool guest who's waiting on the line to talk to us and talk to everybody out there. I see folks coming into the room already. If you were ever going to, Hayward Wagner is here, Sean's here, Alex is here. This is going to be an exciting day. James Clay is going to be with us from BimmerWorld. We'll be talking to him in just a second. But before we do that, I have a huge announcement to make. You guys are here on a very exciting day because let me give you a little background here. When we first started this show, we've been kind of beta testing this for 6 months or so and bringing it into our editorial fold. So when we first started testing the show, our sales department came to me and said, "Hey, is there anything here that we can get some of our partners involved in, and what can we do? What can we put together?" And I said, "Yeah, there absolutely is, but." Because this is a live show, because this is me talking to people in real time, I've got some pretty specific requests, for you guys, and I've got a really short list of companies who I would like to see involved in this thing, who I think we could actually do good by, and they could do good by our audience. And the number one company on that list was the company that has now signed on as our first sponsor. So I would like to welcome to the broadcast here. Hang on, this is going to be exciting. Watch this. Check this out. Here we go. Boom! CRC Industries has signed on as the very first patron of the Grassroots Motorsports Live Show. CRC is a longtime supporter of all of the efforts of Grassroots Motorsports. They are a supporter of our $2,000 challenge events. They are a supporter of us in print advertising and our project cars. So we are really, really excited to welcome them here to the Grassroots Motorsports Live Show, which is now GRM Live presented by CRC. So here, I'll even though I'm wearing headphones, I'll fold them back and I'll put the CRC hat on for a few minutes. So that is our exciting announcement. Thank you very much to CRC. We'll actually throw a link up for them. The ink is still wet. The digital ink is still wet on the digital paper of this contract, so we know we're going to be able to get you guys to actually be able to provide our viewers with some benefits from this partnership in the way of discount products and giveaways and stuff. We're working out the logistics on that, but for now, go to the store, buy some CRC stuff, because they support your favorite internet show. All right, without further ado, let us bring on our friends, Mr. James Clay here. And we even have fancy graphics that we've prepared for you, James. With that, James, are you with us?
I'm here. You got me?
Excellent. Yeah, thank you very much. So, I'm very excited to talk to you because there has been a project, or a couple of projects that you've been working on here over the last couple months. So earlier this year, I get a text message from James, and it says, "Hey, I have been reading your story in Grassroots from a couple years ago about when you went to race at the Nürburgring, and that is now of personal interest to me." Wink, wink, I can't say much more. So, as it turns out, James is getting ready for the 2017 Nürburgring 24-hour race here in about 5 weeks. And this is something that all came together very fast. And it's not only that race you're getting ready for, but you're going to be doing Pikes Peak this year. And this is all sort of a special project with a longtime partner of yours, which is Optima Batteries. So give us a little bit, actually, before we even get into that, give us the 30-second version of just who the heck is James Clay and why are we talking to him today?
Well, yeah, I guess one of your buddies, right? That's and buddies with the Grassroots Motorsports guys. So that's probably why we talk most often. But no, we've been doing this BMW performance parts business for a little while, called BimmerWorld. It's about a 20-year thing now this year.
Wow.
Which we haven't officially announced. So there it is, 20 years. Long time automotive enthusiast, BMW enthusiast, amateur racer, turned professional racer, and this year world traveler. So all in the same vein in pursuit of automotive fun.
So these projects you're working on this year, and you're still doing a Continental Challenge team this year. I think you guys have 2 cars in Conti already this year. So in addition to that, you're also doing these special projects in conjunction with Optima, and I know some of the information on that is still a little bit hush hush. But what can you tell us about how these projects came together this year?
Gosh, I'll tell you, Optima is one of our partners and title sponsor of our 84 car in the IMSA Continental Tire Series. But we were rolling into Daytona for the Roar this year, and my friend at Optima called and said, "Hey, we want to do some really iconic automotive stuff this year. What does that mean to you?" And I rattled off a list of events, and which were pretty high level events, and he said, "No, think bigger." And so, in that thought process, Pikes Peak was certainly on the list. Baja was on the list. Daytona 500, which is just not things that I want to do, but just cool stuff. Le Mans, but we need to be able to participate. We need to be able to participate in a vehicle with an Optima battery. So that we kind of broadened the scope, and in some ways, but it also narrowed it a little bit in some ways. But a 24-hour race, and who doesn't know the Nurburgring that's involved in our community, and that's this Nurburgring race is just getting bigger and bigger. There's supposed to be over 250,000 fans there this year, which is just absolutely nuts. Until you see this track that within its borders has three towns within the perimeter of the track. So just an amazing, huge place. The event's getting bigger, and the more I know about it, the cooler it gets, I think.
It's cool. I mean, it's an event that I've been going to. I actually went there on a press trip, 8 or 9 years ago now, and I was kind of vaguely familiar with the event, but I've gone back every year on my own nickel since then, because it's just such a cool event, and it's so neat to see. It's hard to even make a parallel to that event in the U.S. because it's so big. I mean, you're talking about an event that there's nearly 200 cars starting for that event. I believe they've actually cut it down to like 180 cars now, but that's still a heck of a lot of cars. But in the last few years, you've had everything from factory GT3 efforts down to a group of local guys with their Opel Corsa that tows it behind their VW van to the event. And it's like if you took Thunderhill and the Daytona 24 Hours and kind of mashed them together and they had a baby. And it's a spectacle. And like you say, there's 250,000 people lining every inch of this 17-mile track. And it's an impressive thing. By the way, folks, if you have questions for James, post them down in the comment stream. If you want to throw us a like or a share, we would appreciate both of those things. The more shares, the better. Maybe maybe if we get a bunch of shares, I'll even find something here around the office to give away. So one of the things that's always interested me about going overseas and racing, and that event in particular. And I had the opportunity to do one of the support events for that for the 24-hour event a couple of years ago. But it's not just send your money in, sign up, and register. There is a much more involved process that is related to not only the series, but the fact that track has its own sort of it's you're basically going up to the 30-meter platform and diving off when you go to that track. So walk us through. You've had to do this basically from a rookie. So walk us through the process for getting qualified for the 24-hour race.
And I'll tell you, through this whole thing, there's it's an onion, right? And how many layers are there? I have no idea, because I keep peeling and keep finding more. So I'm not unlike you. I've never been to the Nürburgring before, and I'm not always the best fan. I'm usually a better participant, and so since I haven't participated, I don't know much about it. So I've learned a lot this year, but the process is man, it's a long process, right? You have to be able to race in the 24-hour race at the Nürburgring. You have to have previously completed a minimum of 2 races, and in those 2 races a minimum of 18 laps, which 18 laps at Lime Rocks, you can knock that out in 18 minutes, right? Yeah. 18 laps at the Nürburgring is a totally different deal, and it sounds semi-trivial, but my goodness, each lap is like 10 minutes of your life, and there's so much going on, and it's just so wild, and and that's the minimum requirement, of course. And gosh, what I came there with a pretty solid foundation in motorsports, and a minimal foundation of that track. I don't really know much about it. Still don't. I've only scratched the surface, but you don't get a lot of repetition on the track, because the lap time is so long. So if I repeat the same turn and remember among all the other 170 some turns that on this turn that I did 10 minutes prior, I need to do this and this and this a little bit differently, man, it takes so long to come up to speed. And then coming up to speed with the traffic over there, when you've got GT3 cars mixed in that want to do their thing, and you're passing some of the slower cars, it's a lot. So there is a this is wild. This has been like the last month or 2 of my life of figuring this whole thing out. There's a permit course that you have to take, which is one of the craziest things I've ever done, with with a coach riding with me, and telling me where to go while I'm following another car, while, by the way, this is open VLN practice and GT3 factory cars are blowing by. I mean, you couldn't make this stuff up. It's such a crazy deal. And on top of that, in your permit course, there were some pretty heavy hitters there right with you. This is not a race. It doesn't matter who you are, if you've not had any experience at the Nürburgring before, you are essentially treated as a rookie. So if it's your first time there, you're in the same classroom with guys that had F1 experience and some pretty heavy hitters. Yeah, we've got European touring guys. We've got works pros from the U.S., from Europe. We had an F1 driver in our permit course. Guys that know what's going on, but haven't ever raced at the ring before. So it's and my goodness, we all had the same struggles. It's as much as experience as was in that room. Man, I don't think anybody went out there and crushed it on their first weekend.
Yeah, so walk us through, and actually it's worth noting that when I ran there, I ran in one of the support events. The licensing requirements were a little less stringent, which is evidenced by the fact that one of the things I presented for my resume was actually a letter from John Felton. So if John Felton's out there watching, he was a big part of the reason that they let me in that day. But the process for you, so basically you have to go through a ground school and then a driving school, which is one trip over there, and then you have to do a minimum of 2 of the series races that leads up to the 24 hours. there is a series called the VLN, which is an acronym for a very long German word that no one actually knows. But it's sort of a house series for the Nürburgring. It's a series of enduros that run at that track, and they run under common FIA rules over there. But the 24 hour is actually run under those series rules, but as a separate event. So in order to qualify for the 24 hour, you have to run a couple of those series events, and then this coming weekend, I think tomorrow, you're getting on a plane for the actual qualifying race for the 24 hour, right?
Correct. And you can shortcut this process just a little bit. I did jam in my permit course, my tour bus ride, and all that with my first VLN weekend. But at a minimum, you're over there for 2 weekends, and you really hope all goes well, because if it doesn't, you're not going to have successfully completed within the top 75%, which is the rule for those races and laps. So
what do you actually drive? Obviously, you're not taking BimmerWorld BMWs over there. I think you're in a BMW of some sort, though. Did you contact a local team for a ride and drive, or are some of your crew guys going over with you? How are you actually working the logistics?
So we are. I'm driving a BMW, as could probably be expected. I'm driving a BMW M235i Racing with a team in Germany. That's a really popular car in class over there. We have 20 some cars in our class on a given race. So the team is one. I have various friends over there, and said, okay, who should I run with? I did some research, and this actually happened to be a friend of a friend. They are, one of my good friends is Jerome Van Gool from Motion Control Suspension, and this team is one of their customers, and one that he knew ran a good show and had quality cars, and so he connected us, and we're running with Adrenaline Racing, who's a German team over there.
Very cool. So you've you took the checker in the first VLN race you ran. So you have some miles under you now. Where do you think you're at with the track? I'm guessing you're probably at a point where you kind of know what's around the next corner, but not maybe exactly how to negotiate it. The thing that struck me there is, I mean, I did a lot of. I've been there several times, done a lot of media events there, so I was familiar with it. But then all of a sudden, I was driving like an Audi S8, a pretty fast car. But then some guy that knows what he's doing goes by in a VW Golf, and you see the difference between a decent driver in a decent car and a local. And the only thing I could liken it to is somebody that's surfed in one spot for their entire life. I don't care how good you are, how good your equipment is. You go to that spot, and the locals are gonna dominate just because of the nature of the complexity of that track. So where do you think you're at this point?
Well, I'll tell you, last time I have 1 weekend under my belt. The first weekend was a lap in a tour bus, which is a pretty wild thing to take around the track, and even at moderate speed, which was pretty fun. I have about 20 laps from that first weekend, and I'll tell you, and I knew it at the time. I was definitely driving reactively. That weekend, I was not. There were some little glimmers of thinking ahead, and what am I going to do on this next turn? But a lot of it is just take what the track is throwing at you. So I guess my permit course was Thursday. My first time open practice was Friday, and by Friday evening on that first trip, I felt pretty good. I'd come from a VLN lap is the full Nordschleife plus a small portion of the Grand Prix circuit. So that was I'd started out at about a 10-minute lap, and I was down to 940s, and I could see where the 930 was, and went to sleep pretty proud of myself. And man, when they the first session on Saturday morning was qualifying, and we had 3 drivers that we had to work through the car in a 45-minute session, which in a 10-minute lap, that's a tall order.
Yeah.
But so we had a very prescribed plan that we had to follow. And man, it's unleash the beasts. The GT3 cars were out there, and they were there for a lap time, as was everybody else. But kind of a lot less thought about the other people and politeness, etc. And man, it was just a whole new world. And so all these great thoughts that I had on Friday evening, not as great. Going into the second weekend, I think that I have my feet under me. My brain's been given some time to process what's going on over there. I think I'll have some natural comfort with the car. I mean, I'll tell you, the just comfort with the car. There's a 2-mile straight. It's the most uncomfortable straight piece of track I've ever
awful.
been on in my life.
The only time I thought I was going to actually lose control and spin the car was on that front straight. It's ridiculous.
It's scary. It's terrifying, and it's like 5 or 6 cars wide, but you're being bounced around. Maybe not left and right, but my goodness, it feels like I'm leaving the track constantly. So, just comfort with it. Never mind the other 17 miles or 15 miles or whatever else is going on there. But I think my comfort level has increased.
And I think the thing that struck me the most about being out there with traffic all of a sudden, after having done, quite a bit of time on my own, or even, just tourist laps, but being out there with actual race traffic, is just how narrow the place is. And you're so unused to it. It's actually more like a hill climb, I think, than a traditional racetrack, because the geometry of the track is not. It's not here's a straight, here's a braking area, here's a corner. It's just this sort of terrain mapped ribbon of asphalt. It's the lines are really a lot more like autocross lines, I think, than like road race lines. And then you couple that with just a frightfully narrow track, and it makes passing and being passed a pretty significant part of your attention.
Oh, absolutely. And we have full racing slicks, which have lots of grip until they don't. When it's nice that I know the line, and I feel like I've got a pretty good vision of that right now. And I can actually watch a video from the middle and say, oh, I know where they are. So that's that means something. But when all of a sudden you have to know 2.5 car widths of what the line might look like when you have cars beside you, there's a lot going on there.
So are you still doing a lot of simulator time? Is that you spend some time every night playing Gran Turismo or something, or what do you?
I haven't picked up. I'm not a sim guy, and maybe that would be beneficial if I was. I played Gran Turismo a little bit before I went over there the first time, and haven't really touched it because what I got out of that was some general understanding of which way the track goes, and what I got out of that in retrospect is there's just absolutely no way to give yourself any sort of feeling what that track is actually like in real life. It falls so short of what that track is.
The Sims do a really good job on the left, right, the general sort of rhythm, but the thing that the Sims are never going to get right there are the elevation changes and what they do to the dynamics of the car. There's a few spots there that you're either going straight uphill or straight downhill, and visually it almost looks like the terrain's doing one thing, but the car is reacting a different way. And it's one of the things I love about that track, is that it's really dynamic, and there's so many areas that you're not just, okay, I need to hit this mark, then I can relax my grip and wait for my next mark. Everything cascades off of everything else. And if you screw one corner up, it's a pretty long section until you're back at a real race rhythm.
Absolutely. And it's funny, I found one of my biggest challenges was just commitment there, and being able to to know the track far enough ahead that I knew that I could just hold it flat and be okay.
So talk a little bit about now that you've seen sort of the scene over there and the European racing scene. it's fun to kind of compare and contrast and hang out with some of those guys, because it's the same guys you see at tracks here. It's the same world, but there are some really interesting differences. And one of the things that struck me as just incredibly foreign the first time I went over there was, here you have a racetrack full of cars. There's not a single Miata, which just made it feel weird. But what were some of your impressions of just kind of how it felt, to be there and hang out with the people and talk to them and just kind of get a look at how they put on events?
Well, it's there's lots of BMWs, so I felt right at home. But it's obviously there's the it's we're in Germany, and there things are oddly, the drivers' meeting was conducted in English. So there's quite a, but you have international drivers, right? That's going to be your best way to reach everybody. But we're in Germany, so procedure is very important, and we have it's very clear in many ways that we're following these very strict procedures. And so that there's that element of structure that we don't see at a lot of events, or certainly not to that level over here. We're a little bit more wide open and let's just go with it in America. There's some things that are wild. We have spectator rides. So if you go to the Nürburgring on a VLN weekend and you'd like to get in a race car and check out what it's like to go around that track, there's a specified time to do that. And by the way, that specified time is in the middle of open practice. So jump in the passenger seat, and there's GT3 cars full speed, and so you do get an idea of what it's all about. That never fly in the U.S. Yeah. There's the open pits, which is a very European thing, right? Each pit has 2 gas pumps and no pit wall. Right. No pit wall. There's a pit wall to the between the pits and the track, but otherwise your garage opens right up to the pit lane, and there you are, and the cars just pull in. But it's a very in the pit lane, it's very procedurally quick, and everybody is dealing with the same thing. But I think sometimes and from running our race team. We look for seconds and little tiny pieces, fractions of seconds that we can improve on everything on track. And then, of course, the easiest way to pass somebody is to pass them in the pits. And so the pit lane, we buy better guns, we have more staff, whatever it is that it depends on the rules of the series to make this pit stop faster. In Europe, you pull up to the gas pump.
Yeah,
that's next to your garage, and they fuel you from the gas pump, and you change drive. It's so much more relaxed in a very which also brings down the money spend. Right. So if I look at,
and let's let everybody know, when James says you pull up to a gas pump, these are commercial style, squeeze handle gas pumps. So even if you have a dry brake on your car for quick fueling, you've got an adapter in there that you are fueling from a typical, like you're just pulling up to the Exxon station and squeezing the handle and putting that in your car. So it definitely. There's a very sort of fixed time to your fuel stop, because it's going to take whatever it takes. So if you're driving a diesel car, obviously your pits are where the diesel pumps are, because they aren't everywhere. But yeah, between every 2 pit stalls, there's just a regular old gas pump sitting right there, and that's how you're fueling. So it does tend to slow stops down. But I found that even racers are racers, and even if it takes 5 or 6 minutes to fuel a car, those guys are still trying to squeeze as much work as they possibly can into those 5 or 6 minutes. And they're still finding a way to create as much work for themselves while the car is in there as possible.
Well, absolutely. Right. Race cars never stop requiring work, but it's such a cost containment is one of these major issues, and we have the cost containment question in pro racing, in club racing, in autocrossing, because we're all very good at spending money in the quest to go faster, and they have some things that contain the cost nicely, and everybody just kind of falls in line with it, and it doesn't seem like there's that vicious pursuit for perfection at whatever the cost is, financial cost, and it's an interesting approach.
Yeah, and it's also an approach done with the level of officiating impressed me as well. That they seem to be very heavily staffed, and I didn't get the impression that the staff was just a bunch of volunteers that were there working for free ham sandwiches. But maybe it was just a level of dedication to it. But the staff all seemed very highly trained, very, very, very highly able, and very easily identifiable too. Everybody, they love jumpsuits over there, for example. Everybody is wearing specifically colored jumpsuits. I forget which is which, but the grid guys had orange, and the flagging guys had their traditional whites, and so it's really easy. Everybody has their uniform. Everything is very easy to identify, and it made it nice. It made it nice. There's so much chaos at a race anyway, and then with a couple hundred cars, there's even more, and it was pretty easy to spot who to direct your questions to, or who to avoid if you didn't know what the hell you were doing, basically.
Yeah, and you mentioned workers. Let's not forget that there are over 200 worker stations around the track, each manned with multiple people during a proper race. Wow.
Yeah. So actually, let's James, I want to take a quick break here and bring everybody up to speed if anybody is just joining us. We are live with James Clay from BimmerWorld, talking about his partnership with Optima. They're getting ready for the Nürburgring 24 hours, getting ready for Pikes Peak. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes. Also, like to talk about our friends at CRC Industries, because they are the new sponsor of this show. That is so exciting. I'm so excited to welcome our first official patron for the Grassroots Motorsports live show, CRC. Oh my God, look, I just happen to have a can of Brake Clean right here next to me. You guys, we're going to be giving stuff away from CRC. We're going to be giving you guys discount codes. We're still working out the details of this, but we'd like to welcome these guys to the party. CRC was one of the companies that we sort of thought, if we are going to have partners with this show, it needs to be somebody that we're using in the shop anyway. Everybody has Brake Clean. Everybody has stuff like Freeze Off. Some of us have it sitting right on our desk, right next to our camera. I love the electronics cleaner. These are products that I use. These are products that I love. I do know, just as a word of warning, Brake Clean will melt Crocs. So there's a little bit of warning to you guys. I'm not going to tell you how I know that. Actually, let's do this. I got a couple extra hats. I have one that I have not touched yet. If somebody wants to post a picture in the comments of some CRC stuff in their shop, I will send you one of these CRC hats as celebration. We'll start the giving right away. Also, if you are not a subscriber to Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, or if you are a subscriber to Grassroots Motorsports Magazine and need to renew your subscription, go to grassrootsmotorsports.com/Facebook. It's grassrootsmotorsports.com/Facebook. Get a 15% discount off your new or renewal subscription to this here magazine. So, you can also check out James's site, BimmerWorld.com and BimmerWorldRacing.com. All the info about their Continental team, and I'm sure they're going to have all the information about these upcoming exciting events coming up soon. So I could talk about Nürburgring stuff all day, but you guys are also getting ready for Pikes Peak. How cool is that? I mean, the two iconic events in 1 year, and I understand you're building a car specifically for Pikes Peak. Is that true?
It is, and that's with as much as I have going on. This, who knew this Nürburgring thing would turn into what the monster it is? Just as far as everything you need to do when I'm not even bringing a car over there.
Oh, and by the way,
so
you can get your own CRC hat.
Oh, so. Right on. No, I wanted to mention that CRC has been a sponsor of ours for a long time as well.
Yeah,
and fantastic company, and there's lots of cans of brake parts cleaner out there, and they don't all work the same, and the CRC stuff is actually far superior.
Yeah.
So,
Brake clean, the number one brake cleaner since 1971. That is a fact that I know now. But yeah, it's stuff that we used and we buy anyway. So it's exciting to have them aboard.
yep, good people.
So
So the ring, big thing. Lots of focus and lots of time put there. Luckily I put the keys in the machine as far as building a car and so forth for Pikes Peak before the ring thing started, and I haven't even really had too much time to think about that event. I certainly haven't had time to ponder the track and the potential testing weekends that we're looking at there. There's a couple of tire tests that we can participate in. The car is, we've got an E92 M3, so V8 version, naturally aspirated, so we might fix that before we go up to 14,000 feet. But we're building that right now, hoping to have it on track here in another few weeks for the first shakedown.
So that's got to. Do you have any experience on the mountain there at all?
No. What do you mean? Why would you need that?
So how do you even do not even the reconnaissance, but when you start building a car for an event like that, if I was building a time trial car or a road race car, I'd kind of know what I'm up against and what problems I need to solve to make the thing go fast. How do you even start doing the research to figure out how to build a proper Pikes Peak car? What sort of factors are you looking at that need to be solid on that car?
Well, this whole Pikes Peak thing kind of came about initially because Jesse Clark, one of my good friends, works with a film company that shot an Audi commercial there. And so our bright idea at the beginning was, hey, we should go do this, but we can get some footage that you can't, the Audi corporate might not want you to have. So we can go wide open in our own project and get the film guys there and so forth. But so Jesse has been my collaborator a little bit on the project, which has made it more fun. And he's done a fair amount of the research and saved me some time doing that. But a lot of the car requirements are maybe somewhat unique to the event, but really not unique to the situation, right? It's run, I think, roughly between 9,000 and 14,000 feet. The air's thin, so that means aero doesn't do much. If you're going to have aero, you need really big aero. It means the engine doesn't do much because it doesn't have enough air to breathe. So any help you can give it in that direction, forced induction is generally the route that you'd ponder there. The coolers don't have a lot of air to do their work. So if you have a temperamental car, one that's difficult to keep cool, you're really going to have problems there because the air is just not thick enough to cool the car. I'm sure there's a scientific way to say that I totally botched, but anyway, the cooling is an issue. So those are your major factors, and then of course you've got just the hill climb portion of it, and the road surface, which certainly gets some freeze and thaw up there. It's now fully paved, but the surface isn't the smoothest. Every year they go and grind the track down a little bit, grind the worst parts of it off where we have some heaves and so forth. So, you got to have a car that's compliant enough to deal with that kind of stuff as well. Yeah.
And that's before you as a driver have even worried about learning the track. So what's going to be your approach there? I know there's some test days, but I think now aren't all the test days on different parts of the mountain? Like, is there ever going to be a chance that you get to run the full course before your first competition run?
Who knows? And if I'd done some level of research, I might have a better idea. I know there are a couple of tire test weekends, and this is a road, by the way. As far as just going up and down, quote, the track, you can absolutely do this at any time in your car. Of course, not at the speeds that one would be on track in, but a lot of it just, it's just like the ring, right? There's even a similar number of turns, depending on how you count your turns. But it's you have a good memory. You quickly classify, this is that type of turn, or this is I know that when it looks like this, I got to brake really hard. So you can mentally kind of break down the track that way. I don't know if they run the full track in the tire tests. It's really difficult to run the full track. If you think about it, if you've got somebody zipping up this mountain that's using every bit of pavement and a little bit more, there's not this, it's not skiing. You don't have something that takes you the other way in a nice organized fashion.
Right.
You collect cars at the top, and then at some point you have to stop what everybody's doing and then bring those cars all the way back down the mountain, and then you can do it again. So that's the need to break the track up. I will get just as part of the event, you get 3 days on the track, but it's actually 4 because they have kind of an optional bonus day. Your 3 days on the track are 1 day in each of 3 sections. That's how they break up the mountain. And so you do run, everybody in your group will run 3 or 4 times in that section in the wee hours of the morning before they open the road to the public. So you do get to see 3 or 4 times in that section. And then of course race day is the first day that you officially, at least on that week, string all of those 3 sections together and transition with speed into the next section. So
this is a year that you're spending a lot of mental energy learning new tracks, it sounds like, and learning new courses. And you touched on this a little bit, but what do you have sort of a general approach to learning, even if it's a new track, here that you've never been to? What's your, do you have more visual approach, or do you have kind of a rhythmic approach? What's your approach for learning and memorizing a new track?
I would like to say study and sim and video and all these great answers, but I don't think those are good learning tools for me. But it's not how my brain works. It's seat of the pants. It's how I can more, like how your body can identify smells. That's one of your stronger. I can remember that smell. It was like this. It's a sense like that, and it's a transition of, that feeling that I have means I have to do this now. And I'll tell you though, the ring, and I'm sure Pikes Peak is gonna fall very much in line. It's been a long time since I've had to learn tracks of this magnitude, or this many turns, or whatever it is. The last new tracks that have been super important to me that I've had to learn are Indy, and then of course Coda. Not tracks that you would go to, or Indy wasn't a track that was open to go to, and then Coda of course wasn't built until recently, and so we started racing there. 22 turns at Coda, something like that. Indy was maybe 17 or again, don't really recall, but on those tracks, fairly easy to piece it together pretty quickly, because you can, instead of knowing exactly what you do in turn 2 at Coda, or whatever it is, you kind of say, well, this turn is kind of like this turn, and mentally make that connection, and you know how to treat that type of turn, and then you can get down to that'll take you to the 95%, and then you can get down to that 5% that's that extra second or 2 around the racetrack. But of course, if it's a second or 2 around the racetrack that's a 2-minute track, then you're talking about a 10-minute run. That's all of a sudden where your 10 to 20 seconds are. So that becomes really important to get it to that level.
Yeah, and with with what we think of as a racetrack, even a place that's sort of built on the terrain like Sebring, for example, it has this. It has this sort of familiar geometry to us. It has this straight followed by a corner followed by another straight, and the corner may be a different shape or a different radius, but it has, it's a familiar language to us, even if the sentences aren't all strung together right. We understand the language enough to figure it out. But then you go someplace like Pikes Peak or the Nürburgring, and the geometry is all different. The shapes and the visual cues all of a sudden become completely different. And it's almost like you're the skills you've developed in analyzing a track have to adapt really, really quickly. Although with Pikes Peak, at least you're not. At least you can learn the track. You're not worried about chasing other cars up the hill and trying to pass and trying to be passed, and focusing on traffic.
Right, and it's Pikes Peak. I imagine I'll spend some mental energy on that later. I was just on a conference call before we started talking, going over a PowerPoint presentation from one of my co-drivers on the ring. So that's where a lot of our focus is going right now.
Yeah.
But Pikes Peak is going to be nice because it's no one drives that car hundreds of laps a year. And it really, it is a hill climb. It's a little bit different approach to how far I'm willing to let it hang out and what the actual track knowledge is there. So I would imagine, never having done it, that it's going to be slightly more relaxed than the Nürburgring is.
So, I hate even asking this question because I don't want to jinx you or anything. But are you going into these events with any sort of goal, or what is your realistic expectation of outcome for these? But both in terms of on-track success and in terms of sort of messaging success, I would say.
I think wow, it's really hard to kind of dumb it down to this because we go out in an IMSA weekend working to win, and in really everything I typically do on track, I'm out there to win. And I'll tell you, I think this year we're out to participate and to complete an event, and successful completion may not be on the podium. That'd be fantastic. Going out to Pikes Peak, I know we're not going to win. We're not building a car to win. The E92 M3 that we're bringing to Pikes Peak is a project car for the shop, and really, it was built, and you might remember this. Maybe a bunch of years ago, we had an E46 M3 with a similar street track slant to it that we brought to Grassroots Motorsports for the Ultimate Track Car Challenge.
Yeah.
So this E92 M3 is being built kind of along the same vein. This is a car we're seeing a lot of people take to the track now. A lot of people are modifying more than just some light bolt-ons, and so we wanted to dig into this. What does a streetable track car look like? Now, scope has crept, as it tends to happen in life in general, it seems, but we're still trying to approach it a little bit with that focus. And certainly, there's going to be some footnotes to it, right? We're going to have 10 parts that, by the way, we had to do this because of Pikes Peak, but really we're building a car that I could stand in front of a group of people and say, this is a realistic, relatable car that you would want to build pieces of, all of. It's kind of a spec car, right? It's a not in spec racing type way, but if I'm building a house, I'm building a car that I think other people would want a similar one of. But that car doesn't make it up Pikes Peak at the same pace as a purpose-built mountain car. And unfortunately, the way the classing works, I could either take a bone stock production car or a car that has a VIN. That's the only requirement, or maybe even doesn't even have to have a VIN. Maybe just has to have a production shell, which means Porsche Cup cars or Tudor cars or whatever kind of GT3 or whatever you wanted to bring. So we're outgunned, but.
So give us a quick rundown. Like what sort of a prep level are you looking at here? Give us a quick rundown of the recipe you guys are using. Is this going to be kind of a Continental analog type car, or something you might see at like a BMW CCA club race?
Well, the goal was really something a little bit calmer than that.
Oh, wow.
This was a car that you would see at your Chin Motorsports DE or BMW Club DE or whatever. It was the intended scope was something that you would drive to the track. May not drive 5 days between the weekends, but you would drive on the weekends to the track to then drive on track. It's a car that has an inspection sticker. It has license plates. We had planned to drive it to Pikes Peak, and
wow.
Of course that may change a little bit. just because of the time and the time out of
Yeah.
the office and all these other things. But it is a street drivable car. But now now I have to do this cage that has to work for flipping down a mountain should that happen. So there's obviously some things that have changed a little bit.
Yeah, and certainly while it's not a wheel-to-wheel event, the safety standards, there's no cage you can build for falling off a cliff, and we've got Randy Pope's one of the finest drivers I know, missiled a GTR off the side of the mountain. So you look at guys like that and you say, wow, clearly here's an experienced guy, here's a guy that knows what he's doing, and that kind of thing can happen to that guy. And luckily where he flew off, it was a pretty soft landing. It wasn't that far down, but there are some areas there where you really have to not only gauge grip and traction, but risk and reward at the same time too. And I think that's going to be the sort of the big mental battle for you in preparing for that.
Yeah, it's these are brutal events, right? The Pikes Peak, there's that mountain looks a little scary. The Nürburgring has Armco all around it.
Yeah.
Yet it is terrifying. I got through weekend one without a scratch on the car. Fingers and toes crossed that I can do it 2 more times this year. But yeah, we have a hefty goal of not wanting to screw up this year.
That's impressive. And so in addition to that stuff, you guys are also back in the States running your Continental effort, and you guys do a lot of time at crap can events too, Chump Car and World Racing League and American Endurance Racing and all that stuff too. Is that how does that end of stuff fit into the corporate culture at BimmerWorld, I guess?
And I think all the crap can guys would cringe at that term, because I think the goal is to move away from that. But that's the reality of it, right? These things which we started it started as lemons, maybe with a $500 car, and if you spent too much, you'd get it crushed. That's it's unique to the U.S., I believe, and it's a very interesting direction for racing. It's these longer endurance races with cost-effective cars allow more people to participate on a team, and more people that the event becomes financially viable to. I try to get in, and there's so many of these series at various levels now as well. You mentioned a fair number, including there's Lucky Dog out in California, or the West Coast. There's so many of these that have not just crap cans, but and by the way, a crap can is now $5,000 or $10,000 once you consider all the safety equipment and all the things that you ought to do if you're not just going to have a total junker that breaks constantly. But our whether I'm there or not, our BimmerWorld team, which is I think we have a shop person involved right now, but it's basically a race team run by the office, the warehouse, shop guys, whoever wants to join. It started as a partnership with Redline Oil. My buddy over there, Cameron Evans, was really believed in this type of series when it started, and it's just a way to participate, right? What we do here is, certainly we sling some parts, right? We sell performance parts, OE parts for BMWs, but we're involved in this culture. We participate in the events. We like to be alongside our customers, and this is the perfect way to do that at these quote crap can type events.
So have you taken any knowledge that you think you've gained directly from these sort of entry level series that's been applied to your Continental team? Like has there been anything that just became? We talked about cost containment with some of these Nürburgring teams earlier. Is there anything you've sort of learned directly from this low buck racing that has all of a sudden you think, God, why haven't we been doing this in Continental this way the whole time?
I don't know. I don't know if I buy the trickle up theory. We certainly Gosh, in Continental, we solve a lot of problems by throwing money at it. You know, interestingly,
that's a great way to solve problems too.
well, it's maybe, you know, if you don't have to do the accounting yourself, it's fantastic. But probably the thing that I would say has really, you know, that parallels or is a parallel with all the series is the people and the partners. You know, I have Optima batteries. You know, we talked about them at the beginning. By the way, they also like Chump Car racing, and they were the title sponsor at one point. They're still involved, and they're involved with our team. And you know, we use they call it an Adoptima, one of these batteries that somebody said, hey, this thing's not working. Well, it's, you know, maybe it's because you weren't charging it right. But by the way, I'm running my race car on that and have been for the last 5 years. You know, Redline oil, when I've got a 200,000 mile engine, because that's what we run in this piece of junk, you know, it lives at that environment because I have the right fluids in it. So it's those kind of partnerships and technical partnerships that you know, the same things that make our pro cars live on a given weekend is the same thing that makes this junker run around the track and continue to do it 24 hours at a time. Sure,
yeah, and for a company that's out proving a product or testing a product, you know, they don't care whether it's 24 hours in a car with a bunch of rich guys driving, or 24 hours in a car with a bunch of hillbillies driving. It's just as punishing one way or another for them. So they're gonna you know have good feedback either way. And actually, we should a big shout out to Jim McElvain who just joined us. And Jim, if you're listening, I suggested that you and James need to team up for Optima battery beach volleyball team. I think James could do the groundwork, and you could certainly do the network. They're pretty well. So Optima also, you know, in addition to being a longtime partner of BimmerWorld, longtime partner of Grassroots, and a big supporter of this scene. So we are happy to see them involved with you. We're gonna wrap things up here in the next couple of minutes. If anybody has any last minute questions for James Clay, let us know down in the comments. Check out grassrootsmotorsports.com/Facebook if you want to get a discount subscription. Check out James's site, BimmerWorld.com. If you've got a BMW, chances are you know about BimmerWorld already. If you don't know about BimmerWorld, go check it out, because it's a high quality operation. We've been involved with them for a while. They are highly reputable, highly knowledgeable, highly skilled, and just a bunch of quality folks. And man, I'm excited for you. I'm going to be out there in May at the 24-hour. I will see you guys out there. I know our buddy Kevin is heading out there to shoot photos with you. It's going to be a nice little GRM friend party out in Germany. We're excited about it. It's neat seeing people we know, you know, go over there and experience, you know, different ways to do the same sport. And we wish you the best of luck over there. Any so as you're getting ready to get on the plane this weekend, what are you looking to accomplish this weekend that's going to make you feel better about the 24-hour?
You know, if the first weekend was defined by you know, really what I would call almost a terrifying experience of, you know, this new track that I had no idea, that's, by the way, the longest and most difficult track in the world, and these cars that bounce along it like a, you know, donkey cart. It's a nice donkey cart, but it's man, of familiarity and my feet under me, and you know, I'm looking to pick up that 1 to 2 seconds if it was a normal track, but really I'm looking for 10 seconds this weekend. And you know, we're starting to push closer in the direction of a podium, and you know, and maybe by the 24 we'll have that sort of pace. We'll see. You know, I see my buddy Howard here is asking BMW M4 GT4 next year. You know, it's while we're talking about the ring in this weekend, BMW is over there, pushing. They have several M6s, several teams running M6s in their customer racing program, and they're putting forth a major effort there. The M4 is also running there this weekend. The GT4 car, which, by the way, as we start to move closer to European type racing in the U.S. with factory built cars, which is makes me cringe a little bit, but on the new stuff, they're just getting so complicated. That's unless you wrote the software, you might not be the guy modifying the software. So, and so much of that is electronic based. So, anyway, GT4 cars are, I think, absolutely a thing on the horizon, and what's gonna, it kind of saved our GS field, I think, this year, and we saw it go from 6 to 8 cars to 20 some at the start of the year with the Camaro coming, the M4 coming. So I'm checking out that M4 this weekend and going through that. And yeah, we do have 2 on the way, so we will be running an M4 campaign next year.
Oh, very cool. And it has to be a neat experience for you being, you're essentially at the track at these Nürburgring events as an arrive and drive guy, whereas normally in the U.S. you're there as a driver, a team owner, a strategist. So in one hand, some of the pressure is being taken off of you for the management part of things, but I think all that pressure is being put back on certainly by the fact that you're in such an unfamiliar environment. So, good luck, man.
Thanks. It's interesting. I have a fantastic team here at BimmerWorld. Whether we're talking about a race team that handles stuff on the race weekends, or the group of people in the office that that handle customers and handle orders that allow me to be able to be gone for a week at a time to do this kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, it's I'm pretty hands off during our race weekends because we do have a good bunch of guys running the cars. That management responsibility is never goes away, right? If you look back at successful drivers in their racing careers, guys that could interface with a team and work with the team, sometimes even to manage from within. You can bring a better result. So I wouldn't say it's hands off. We're with a great team over there, but it's auto racing, and you can always do it better, and ideas come from everywhere. So I'm certainly putting in my time and effort in that focus.
That's awesome, man. All right, James, we'll let you go. Thanks very much for joining us. Good luck this weekend. Good luck at Pikes Peak. We will see you at the 24 hours in Nürburgring. We'll probably be doing a lot of social media and some live stuff from there. Actually, it gets tricky for us to do anything live from there because they are crazy about any video being broadcast from there. So we may have to walk across the street or something and do a live update for everybody. But we'll figure something out. So yeah, thank you very much for joining us. We'll let you know when the archive of this goes up if you want to share it with your folks. But thanks for joining us on the live show today. We appreciate it, man.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed being it.
All right, we'll see you. All right, big thanks to James Clay for joining us today. That was a lot of fun. He's a good guy. Check out BimmerWorld.com for any of your BMW needs. We're super excited to see friends of ours go and participate in events that we've been covering for years and we've known about for years, but really have been a couple degrees removed from the world that we're directly involved in. Now to see friends of ours getting involved in that world is really exciting. Kevin wants to know where we're going to eat in Germany. Kevin, they got this place called Burger King, but there's umlauts over the U, so it's super metal, man. It's awesome. So that is going to just about do it for GRM Live this week. Thanks for tuning in on a special Tuesday show, everybody. Thank you very much to our friends at CRC. Oh my God, how exciting is this that the show that you guys have supported for all these months, wondering, man, is this going to ever turn into a real thing? Yes, here's proof right here, baby, that this has turned into a real thing. Go to crcindustries.com. I know that you guys have a choice in products that you buy. We appreciate it when you buy products that support us. I got to put food on the table. I got to pay a mortgage. I got to do all the stuff that normal people have to do. This community, if it's good at anything, it is good at supporting itself. So if you have a choice of brands, and CRC is one of those choices, we would appreciate if you would exercise that choice and support the folks that help support us bringing content to you guys. Also, check out grassrootsmotorsports.com/Facebook. That's grassrootsmotorsports.com/Facebook. 15% discount off your new or renewal subscription. I still have a CRC hat to give away. I had poor Greg Schaefer is there with a shelf full of CRC stuff in his shop, but he can't post a picture. So unless anybody can beat Greg to this before we sign off, I got a CRC hat to give away. Somebody that posts a picture of CRC stuff in their shop. I don't care if it's in your shop. I post a picture of CRC stuff that's in under your kitchen cabinet, and that will be okay for us, folks. That is gonna just about wrap it up for this. The archive of this will be on Facebook for a while. We'll have this posted up on our YouTube site before long, and we'll probably make the audio available for our podcast listeners as well. I'd like to thank James Clay from BimmerWorld for being here this week, and boy, I can't tell you enough about how excited I am that we have now a partner and a patron for this show, and it's going to continue. We're going to keep bringing you guys all kinds of cool content right from the pages of Grassroots Motorsports magazine. So we really appreciate them being on board, and we really appreciate you guys supporting us. The best way for you folks to support us while you're watching this video is like and share. Share it with your friends. Tell them you like it. Tell them that you appreciate what we're doing, and we will continue to bring it to you. Let me scroll through here real quick and see if we have any last minute questions that we did not get to. Doesn't look like too much. So with that, I see some likes coming in. Last minute likes are always appreciated. Folks, that is it for this show. Thanks for tuning in on a rescheduled show. James is obviously getting on a plane tomorrow, so we wouldn't be able to make our regular Wednesday show. So there might be a quickie Wednesday show that we do tomorrow, just to let folks know that there isn't a show tomorrow. So thanks for tuning in. But next week we should be back to our regular Wednesday schedule. Also, reminder, if you are anywhere within driving distance of Road Atlanta, this is the weekend you want to go to Road Atlanta, because this is the Classic Motorsports Midi. Yes, that's right. The HSR Classic Motorsports Midi. There will be vintage and historic race cars from all over the country converging on Road Atlanta this weekend for one of the finest on-track spectacles you will ever see anywhere in racing. We also have the GRM Speed Fest at the Classic Motorsports Midi. We take over the entire infield. By we, I mean Grassroots Motorsports magazine. The entire infield becomes our Grassroots Motorsports playground. We've got all kinds of cool vendors selling cool car stuff. We've got BF Goodrich on site with the BF Goodrich Garage. We've got BF Goodrich also is going to be renting out the autocross course up on the north end of Road Atlanta that you'll be able to try out a Miata with some BF Goodrich tires on it, free of charge. Porsche is the featured mark. Porsche will have an amazing display there of some of their historic vehicles that they'll be bringing out there. Also, we'll have folks on in from Haggerty Insurance talking to you about that stuff. We'll have seminars on handling and performance presented by Detroit Speed. So it's really a cool weekend out to do more than just watch amazing racing and see these amazing. It's like a living museum. But in addition to the on-track stuff, there's also all kinds of cool stuff going on in the infield at the Midi. So we'll throw up a link. It's themidi.com. So yeah, Tom, throw me up a MIDI link there. Tickets are still available. Tickets are available at the gate. I think you can still get a discount on them in the next couple days. So that is that is our plug for the MIDI. Folks, that is officially it. We are done for the day. We will see you next Wednesday. Might see you for a few minutes tomorrow, but we will definitely see you next Wednesday. And we will see you this weekend at the MIDI. Ladies and gentlemen, I am JG Pasterjack. This is GRM Live, presented by CRC Industries. Thank them for joining. We will see you next week. Thanks. Bye.